Welcome back to the Relationship Mentors podcast. Today, we are discussing why 90% of relationships end in failure.
I saw this statistic a while ago because I always knew like 50% of marriages end in divorce. You always hear that statistic. Like it's everywhere. I don't even know if it's true anymore, but you just hear it everywhere.
I think it's more.
It's probably more by now, right? And especially like second and third marriages end in even more divorces. But I saw a stat today, 90% of relationships before the age of 30 end in heartbreak. And I was like, holy shit, that is so many. Like 9 out of 10 of your relationships before the age of 30 will end in heartbreak. That's such a big statistic. And just really diving in, like, why does that happen? Because so many of these relationships, they love each other, but they still end. Like, it's never for a lack of love. It's a lack of skill. It's a lack of awareness. It's a lack of understanding. It's a lack of the 5 points that we're going to say today. So we're really going to dive into that today to see why do these relationships end? Because if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're interested in relationships or you're currently in a relationship. And yeah, I think these 5 points would be really, really cool. But before we get into that, let's do a little catch up from the week just gone. Mia Cherry is, 26 weeks pregnant?
Yeah, 26 weeks.
How does that feel?
Yeah, it's so interesting because the first trimester was so different to what I've ever experienced other than being pregnant, if that makes sense. Like first trimester just wasn't it for me, but then going to my second trimester, I just genuinely feel like myself again. The only thing is it's just like clothes fit differently. It's so strange to look in the mirror and just see a really big belly.
Yeah.
Like it's just so bizarre. However, it's like I definitely don't feel pregnant. I thought I had this idea that, oh yeah, when you're pregnant, you'll have this feeling of always being pregnant, which is just bizarre. And I don't feel like that. I just feel like myself. When I look in the mirror, I look different. And my energies of like going for a longer walk, like there's some discomfort in that. But I just don't feel pregnant.
Do you forget you're pregnant sometimes? Do you wake up some morning and it's like, oh yeah, I'm pregnant? Or do you always remember?
I logically know that I'm pregnant, but I don't feel pregnant. I think I had this idea of what pregnancy would feel like. And I feel like a lot of people have that. Like you have the idea of what happiness feels like or what success feels like or when you have financial freedom, what that will feel like. And when you achieve those things or what being in a healthy relationship feels like. And when you achieve those things, it always feels differently to what you
expect.
Yeah, expect
you got expectations of every goal in your life. And it's like you expect it to feel a certain way. Yeah. And then once you're there, you're like, oh, this is normal now, which is weird.
100%, because there's like even in movies when you look at like pregnant women and they're like really huffing and puffing and it looks really horrible and uncomfortable, for example. Like, or I don't feel that. I feel uncomfortable at sometimes, but not what I see in the movies. And then you also see in other movies of like, oh, I'm pregnant, it's so amazing, it's incredible. I guess it is all those things, but I thought the embodiment of that would feel different.
That's so cool.
So yeah.
Amazing. What have I been up to?
I was going to say, how are you going watching my body change so much or like having your partner grow a baby? Like what's that perspective of you?
I think it's really cool. It's like a whole nother level of like self-love for your body and then me loving you through that all as well.
Yeah.
And it's such a trusting thing because like self-image and your body changing has always been something for you. Yeah. Like through the years. So it's like learning through that and trusting through that and seeing how every time you wake up in the morning and you're butt naked and you show me your belly every morning with a massive smile on your face and you're so happy. Like it's so beautiful. And then seeing your body changing and a lot like getting to love your body through all these different changes is really cool.
Yeah, it's so funny because like when we see our friends, if we're going for a walk or something and we run into our friends, they're like, how are you going? And the first thing I do is like lift up my shirt and be like, this is my bum.
this is my belly. Like you're so proud of it and I love that so much.
Yeah,
it's so
that's
beautiful.
So sweet. Yeah. I think I didn't realize that until you shared it with me the other day, which I thought was really sweet.
No.
Because sometimes when they ask me, I'm going to say, oh yeah, like I just assume, oh, you want to see my belly? But not that, I think they're just genuinely asking.
Yeah.
But it's funny.
It's so cute. And then...
Yeah, how have you been?
Yeah, this week I went for a weekend away with a bunch of mates. There was 5 of us. We went to a cabin in the middle of nowhere, so out into the national park in Australia here. And it was so nice just getting away from society. We had no phone service up there, and it was just so present in nature. Didn't think about anything else, just had fun. Didn't chat about personal development, didn't have to worry about clients, didn't have to worry about posting on social media, just like in the moment up there. And that's the first time I've experienced that in 2-3 years probably. Like the first time I've had a day or two away from my phone in 2 or 3 years, and I'm like, holy shit.
And properly away from it, because I feel like you have days that you want to intentionally not be on your phone, but it's
always there.
Yeah, it always ends up just being a couple of hours that you feel better about. But I think having like a proper
full day or two, that made such a big difference. Like I was so fully present in the moment, which is something I haven't felt for a long time. And you only know you're not feeling it when you feel it.
Yeah.
So when I felt present, I was like, holy shit, I've not felt this in ages. It was so weird. I had like 5-6 hours had passed and I'd not thought about anything. Like I was just in the moment, not thinking about anything. And then when I started thinking about that, I hadn't thought about anything. I was like, oh, I'm overthinking now. I hadn't done that for hours. So it was really, really weird. It's a weird experience.
Because you can recognize that feeling. Like I was just saying about like pregnancy, for example, you have this idea of what it would be like, but then until you fully experience an emotion or this like peace of mind again, then you're like, oh yeah, okay, now I can recognize all those times when I was overstimulating myself or being on my phone way too much or overthinking certain things.
I was speaking to a client yesterday and I was talking about the greatest journey for a man is from his head to his heart. So many men live inside their own head, worrying about the future, worrying if they're doing enough, trying to prove things to other people and thinking about the future, thinking about the past. But it's like when you can be fully present and be in your heart, that's when you give the greatest gift to a woman, when you can be fully present with her. And he's like, what does presence feel like? How do you do that? I was like, it's kind of hard to explain. You only know it when you feel it. So when you feel present, you're like, that's what it's like. And then being able to take that into your relationship.
That's such an interest. We're going a little bit off the topic here. However, it is very relevant because like presence, when you were talking about, like it is a feeling to be in. However, when you are so in your head to get into presence, sometimes you just need to logically make the steps of like, okay,
I'm going outside.
Yeah, it's like I'm quieting my mind and like recognizing when your thought patterns are heading elsewhere. And then it's just like a pattern of logistically getting yourself into the present moment until it just becomes a habit then.
Designing your environment, like go outside, get off your phone, go to sleep at a good time, drink water, eat good food. Just like basic things like that will help in this as well.
Exactly, because like when you go next to that, I can't, a lateral cross.
Yeah.
I was trying to say, like with relationships, for example, to be in a healthy relationship or create healthy patterns within a relationship, a lot of the time it is you're normalizing such negative behavior, but you don't recognize that it's negative behavior because it's slowly added up over time, that to then create a healthy habit in your relationship, it's logically thinking about it, doing the steps until it becomes an unconscious pattern again.
Like all these things we're about to talk about now it happens slowly over time, like Mia said. Evil is often invisible. Improvement is often invisible because it happens so slowly over time that it becomes invisible. Like people are blind to their environment because they're so used to it. There's people in abusive relationships who don't know they're in abusive relationships because it's so normal, because their environment becomes blind, because it didn't happen at once. You don't start dating someone who's going great, and then next minute you're in a domestic violent relationship, for example. It's like, no, you're going great, small things happen over time, builds up over months and years, and then years down the line, you like accept that behavior almost, because it's so invisible, it's so normal to you. Yeah. So it's so important to take a step back, have a look at the environment you're in within your relationship, be like, is this a shitty relationship right now? Are there changes needing to be made?
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. So yeah, let's get into the 5 points of why relationships end. Like relationships end for so many different reasons, like specific reasons in their unique situation. But it's like, if we were to categorize them into 5 different points, these would be it. Amazing. So number 1 is a deep level of disrespect. Treating your partner worse than anyone else and treating them like your emotional punching bag. I feel like that's such a common thing. And it doesn't get spoken about enough, like why relationships end. Disrespect is at the core of all of it. It's like not treating your partner like a human anymore, having no regard for how they're feeling and how they're doing, their well-being. It's like you feel all this hurt inside yourself, you feel stress from different areas of your life, and you take it all out on your partner. It's like your partner doesn't deserve that, but it becomes such normal behavior within a relationship to just blur all this hatred towards your partner because they're the closest target, because they're right next to you, because it's so easy to blame them than turn the attention onto yourself, right?
Yeah, it's something that's like if you're first dating someone, you're obviously treating them with so much respect, you're still courting them. Then even within the first year, you're still treating them with so much respect. It's like then it's past that point when you're like, if you ignore your partner in certain moments, or you make a smart ass comment or a smart ass like criticism, something like that, you need to ask yourself, like, if this person was your best mate or someone that you say that you love so much, it's like, would you actually want to treat the person that you love like that? Because it's like, if I wouldn't treat a stranger like this, why am I treating the person I love the most and that means the most to me like this? Because
it's so normal. Hey?
You can just get into such a rut sometimes within relationships, and this is what can really be normalized within a relationship, is that it's like, oh, I'm so comfortable with you, I can show my full expression. And it's like, yes, you can. However, is your full expression, do you really want your full expression to be disrespect and hatred towards the person that you love the most? And that's when you can really look at yourself and start improving your own self-worth, I think, because it's like, if you really had strong self-worth, you wouldn't
project your shit onto your partner.
Exactly.
And you see your partner's full spectrum. You're like, if you're in a deep relationship, like Mia and I in a relationship, I see the most loving side of Mia and I see the worst side of Mia. Mia sees the worst side of me and the most loving side of me. Like, you're going to see the full spectrum of your partner being in a relationship. That's the biggest piece of a relationship. It's fully letting down your walls. It's allowing yourself to be seen fully by someone else. And that's how you learn to love yourself a lot. But it's like, there's moments of disrespect in our relationship where I'm not respecting Mia or Mia isn't respecting me in moments. But the baseline of respect is there, and we never go deeply into disrespect. Whereas you see some things, it's like people can't get over the way their partner has treated them in the past. If there's been such deep disrespect in the past, it's like, wow, I saw that side of you and I'm scared and I don't feel like I'll ever get over it. So it's like when things like that happen, it's bad. And
I think what we were saying right at the beginning is that how it's just a snowball effect. It's like sometimes it can be the smallest thing, like the disrespect could just be rolling your eyes in a conversation, which you're like, okay, that was just a small thing, disrespectful, but it's not. Sometimes people feel like it's not a big enough deal to bring it up in that moment, but then it can snowball like slowly bigger and bigger and bigger until like a year down the track, there's so much disrespect happening back and forth within the relationship that if you didn't address it when it's coming up, it snowballs bigger.
Yeah, that's the one thing you're great at, is bringing things up in the moment. It's like when something doesn't sit right with you, you bring it up straight away. And sometimes I'm like, oh, fuck, she's nitpicking at all these little things. But it's so good because it doesn't build up. I feel like if Mia wasn't in this relationship, and things got swept under the rug, we'd have much bigger arguments.
If Mia wasn't in this relationship?
Oh, so like if it wasn't you, if it was some other woman.
Yeah. I was like, I think one of the healthiest advice when you're in a relationship is that you should bring things up when it's not a big deal. Because you can see it, and I see it so much in my like DMs on Instagram when I'm messaging women back and forth about their relationships, and they're talking about this or this, and I don't want to be over dramatic, or is this over dramatic? And like the best thing that you can do is to actually bring it up when it's not a big deal, because most of the time you are bringing it up when you've been so disrespected consistently and you are so emotionally charged by the situation that you're probably not communicating it the best way that you could communicate it, because you are feeling the effects of the disrespect or the hurt or the distrust in those moments. So it's so much easier for you to communicate situations when it's not a big deal, so then it actually doesn't become a big deal. And then you can say it in the most loving way. You can say it in a way that your partner still feels loved and appreciated and cared for, and it doesn't come across as you're going to them and being like, you're the worst person ever, like I don't want to be in this relationship, things like that.
I really love that. It's like the emotional charge, not bringing it up in that heightened state is really, really big.
Yeah, I think like if people started doing that, like if they just took one thing away from this podcast, which isn't even in the 6 steps that we have here, it's like to bring things up when they're not a big deal, because the emotional charge behind your arguments is the thing that really creates a bigger disconnect in communication.
It's like the fucking things build up over and over and over, and then one tiny little argument about like leaving the house on time, for example, or leaving a cup on the side, can bring out all this shit from the past, and that's when you get really big levels of disrespect. And then sometimes you'll say things that your partner can't get over, so it's like bring shit up as it happens.
Exactly. Like even for example, saying the scenario of just like your partner rolling their eyes in a conversation, it's like in that moment, maybe it was so small, and you can imagine if you had that conversation with your partner when it first comes up and you're not emotionally charged by it, how would you communicate, hey, you rolled your eyes, please don't do that, or having that conversation, rather than a week down the track when they've done it so many times and there's so much emotional charge behind it. It's like the way that you would communicate that would be 10,000 times worse sometimes.
And sometimes your partner doesn't know they're doing it.
Yeah. For the disrespect.
Yeah, like little eye rolls. Like sometimes it's invisible to their partner, but it's like, hey, that's not okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to tip number 2, or sign number 2.
Yeah.
Which is becoming enemies instead of teammates.
So many couples are against each other. Like it's their partner versus them. And they're just back and forth of who's winning, who's losing, who's right, who's wrong, who's to blame, who's innocent. And it's like, fuck, you will never build a relationship like that.
I feel like the biggest thing that we see happen here of becoming enemies instead of teammates, because when you say that, it can sound very like high chunk of like, yeah, we are teammates. But in reality, it's like when you look at your relationship, when we say becoming enemies instead of teammates, it's your partner does this and then you get spiteful or like pitiful, if that's a word. And it's like, okay, well, if you're doing that, then I'm doing this, but you're not doing it out of it's like if you go for hang out with your mates, if this was our type of a relationship, like if you went to hang out with your mates, but I hadn't seen you all week and I got really upset or angry about that, I'm like, fine then, if you're going to go see your mates, I'm not going to talk to you all weekend, and I'm going to spend the rest of my weekend with the girls.
Yeah.
It's like doing things out of spite towards your partner, because instead of communicating how you're feeling in those moments, you're saying, okay, well, they're doing that, so then I'm doing this, and you're creating a fence, or there's an analogy of like you're just silently throwing bricks and concrete with each other and building a wall, even from just the not communicating.
Yeah, it's such a big thing, the enemies. It's like when you're stressed, when you're heightened, are you actually enemies or are you teammates? It's like when things aren't going well in your life, when there's a lot of external stress in your relationship, when you're tired, maybe if you've got kids and there's just all these things going on around you, like at the core of it, are you teammates? When the worst part of your life is happening, like are you teammates through that? Do you turn towards each other or do you turn away from each other in those moments? So it's like so important that you're actually teammates through that. And it's like, it's you and them against the world. Like shit's going to happen. You're going to fall out with each other. There's going to be financial issues. There's going to be family fallouts. There's going to be work stress. There's going to be health issues. But it's like, can you be teammates and be against the problem, not against each other in those moments?
Yeah. My question is like, do you think there's been any scenarios in our relationship where we've been enemies towards each other?
Definitely in moments, yeah. And it's just like we do all this shit. Like we disrespect each other. We're enemies sometimes, but it's like, how fast can you catch yourself in those moments?
Yeah. My question was, did you have a specific example of that?
I can't think of a specific example here. I think sometimes it's like household chores even. Like if I feel an unfair exchange of if I've done a lot of stuff in my head, if I've been working all day and then I need to do this, and I don't feel like Mia's done the amount that I want her to, I can feel an unfair exchange in that time, and it feels like you need to do this. But then again, that could be a team thing of like, I'm not feeling like your end of the teamwork has been done.
That's so funny when you bring that up, because like
it's the opposite for you. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, yesterday I'm the one that cleaned the whole house and then gave Charlie a to-do list of, like, to make sure that I wasn't doing all of it, and then he didn't do any of it, but he did it all this morning, which was nice.
Yeah, I didn't want to do it yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. There was nothing that came to mind of, like, any times that I've actually thought of us being enemies, if that makes sense. Like, not even, like, small moments. But yeah. Amazing. Okay, let's move on to sign number 3, which is there is a loss of trust. So this can be very much of, like, okay, what we always talk about, where the other person disrespects you, or there's a trust broken of your partner lying to you, those big things. However, there's also a lack of trust when it comes to, for example, if I asked Charlie, or if Charlie said that he was going to do something, but then he doesn't end up doing it, that then also starts building a lack of trust. Like, if you're with your partner and they constantly are saying, yep, I'll do this, yep, I'll take the trash out, and then they don't take the trash out, then over time, if that keeps happening, you actually build a loss of trust with your partner when you know if you ask them to do something that they're not going to do it. Like, that also happens within a relationship. It's so easy to say when there is a loss of trust and you're like, oh yeah, but it's when my partner, like, lies to me, or I catch them in a lie, or blah, 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 and they're not telling the truth all the time. It's also in moments where they're not telling the truth when they say they're going to do something, or when you do have a disagreement and he's like, okay, I'm going to start focusing on that and start improving that aspect of whatever caused the argument in the first place, but then they're not doing anything actively to improve that situation, whether it was not taking out the trash. That would be, like, the easiest example. So it's actually those little minuscule things that are actually losing the trust over time.
Follow through is such a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I see the issue in so many relationships where...
So yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It's a lack of follow through throughout the relationship, because it can seem so minor, but it builds to be so big in a long-term relationship.
It's like men can be void of any awareness of certain things in the household, for example, of cleaning, of cooking, of washing up, of taking the bins out, of these thousands of little tasks around the house. And then the woman can get annoyed and ask him things. And the guy's like, yeah, I'll do it. But then his mind goes straight to work, or goes to working out, or goes to the next thing. That he's not actually present. He's not aware. He doesn't fully take it in. He doesn't write it down. He doesn't action it. So he doesn't do that. And then the woman asks him again. And then that little lack of trust, like Mia said, it builds up over time. And the belief that gets fortified in a woman is, I can't rely on you. Like, when I need you, I can't rely on you. And that builds up so much in the relationship that she stops asking for things. And then from that moment, she starts checking out. And then it becomes more and more disconnected over time.
Since I am pregnant, I'm watching a lot of pregnancy, or, like, parenting dynamics with relationships at the moment. And something that I have seen a lot, which is a great example for a loss of trust, is with the newborns, or, like, parents, you can see that mums take on most of the chores to do around the child, of, like, feeding them, looking after them, planning their schedules for, like, kids overall. And then you can see it's like how that actually started was that she was doing it in the first place, or she had done it once and then she believed her way was the best way without allowing her partner to actually figure it out
and get good at it.
Yeah, and get good at it for himself. That, like, over a period of time, that she was like, okay, this is actually how you do it. I'll just do it because it's easier. It's just faster. And then over time, now, a few years later, a few months later, she's doing everything. And then she's annoyed that her partner isn't doing anything. But when you look back right at the beginning, that it's like, because you shut him down every single time and didn't allow him to learn that, when you were actually given the turn to learn that at the beginning.
I love that.
So yeah, that's also another thing.
That's so true. It's like, you never invest the time into teaching your partner, because a lot of the time, like, chances are the woman is going to be a lot better than the guy at a lot of things. And if the woman doesn't feel like the guy is good enough at a certain task, she can take over and do everything herself, right?
Yeah.
Just like, if you just never teach the guy, then you'll have to do it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And I also think it's like, it's not your responsibility to teach the guy. It's like allowing him to figure it out. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, if you're wanting to teach your partner how you like it to be done, then that's fantastic. But there is also an argument where people's like, it's not my responsibility to teach you how to do that. But you also need to remember, but allow them to have the time to figure it out, rather than it's just faster if I do it. It's like, give them the time to figure it out because you actually got the time to figure it out.
And yeah, that's such a good point. I love it. Cool. Number 4, the effort drops / taking your partner for granted. This is something I see a lot. It's like people will effort in at the start of the relationship to win their partner, but then they get comfortable and then they feel like they've won their partner. So they stop putting effort in because there's nothing to chase. It's so normal. The excitement's gone, the thrill's gone, the honeymoon phase is gone, and you're just left with your partner. And it's like, it's so normal now. It's like, can you keep the spark alive? Can you still make effort in your relationship? Just because you won them doesn't mean you'll keep them.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because it's like, as you were saying that, it's like the reason why it gets to be, like it just feels so much more exciting sometimes at the beginning to put effort in and not to take your partner for granted, because you're still figuring out this person. Like you're still figuring out what their passions are, what their habits are, what their like cute mannerisms are. It's like when you've been in a relationship for several years, you feel like you just already know that person. You just assume that
it's complete.
Yeah, it's complete. Like I know who you are, I know how you react. But the thing that we forget, even in our relationship, is that both of us are still growing and evolving and transforming who we are as people, that we can forget to actually find the enjoyment of still putting in effort. And yes, not taking your partner for granted. Because I think there is a lot of things of where we can easily take your partner for granted. For example, it's like making the bed every day. Like I make the bed every day without, and it's a task that's almost like always on you, always. This doesn't happen in our relationship because you thank me every morning for that. But it's like tasks like that are constantly happening all the time that can be taken for granted because they're just always done. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you stop appreciating it because it's so normal.
Yeah, and that's just like a physical task. Sometimes it can be an emotional task of you're always there emotionally for your partner or emotionally there for the kids and the family. And since you're always the one doing that, it can just be taken for granted because it's like, yeah, that's just you, rather than, oh, that's just you putting in the effort and the time and I was going to say admiration, but
appreciation.
Yeah, appreciation and attention to the family.
Even the effort to be aware. Like it takes effort to consciously be aware of things. It's like notice your partner, notice what she does for you. Make the effort to write down a note when you think of something to tell your partner. It's like, oh, like thank you for being such an amazing mum. Thank you for always organizing food for the week. Like something Mia is great at is thinking ahead with food, and I'm really bad at that. Like I am getting better with that. There's a time I went to the shop and Mia was like, I am so proud of you. You got like 2 days worth of food.
Yeah,
you thought ahead. I was like, that is actually I found that so difficult. Like that was such a task to feel what I was feeling in my stomach of hunger and then be able to think about what I want to eat tomorrow and be able to get those ingredients. And it's like, I found that really difficult.
Yeah, and that's still how it feels for me every single time. It's not like it just gets better and easier. It's just like, yeah, I think I've heard you say that a couple of times in the shops. Like, I just don't know, like, that's really difficult. I'm like, I know, I do it all the time. We just do it to get it done.
You do get better at it, though. Because I feel better at it from a few months ago. So you must be an expert by now.
But it still takes a lot of, like, mental load to figure out.
Yeah, for sure.
That, and then also to consider the other person in what they're wanting and what they eat.
Yeah.
Things for, like, that example. But yeah, I was, like, very impressed when he came home. I think it was, like, 2 weeks ago when you went to the shops. I think I just allowed... not allowed. That's such the wrong word. But it's like, we just needed something. And I think instead of me doing it, I just asked, it's like, oh, like, we need some stuff from the shops. Do you want to go? And then...
I came back with like 2-3 days worth of food.
Yeah, like meals
like
for
hunter-gathering times.
Like just meals for each thing. And then you thought of the ingredients that you needed, what we had at home, what we needed. So 2 years down, we got it.
Yeah, we got it down pat. Amazing. That was effort dropping and taking partner for granted. It's so important to actually appreciate your partner, even though it's normal, even though you feel like you've won them now and life feels like it's the same every single day. They're still doing stuff for you every single day. They want to feel appreciated for that. And that will bring newness into your relationship if you actually pick up on what your partner's doing.
What is a great idea that just came to my mind now is like actually just spending a day being intentional of realizing and recognizing all the things that your partner is doing for you, for herself, or for themselves, or for the household, things like that, and actually writing them down and even like sharing that with your partner. Like that would make them feel so grateful. Like,
fuck yeah, that'd be cool.
They'll feel so seen and loved and appreciated for those moments. It's like something that Charlie does is like when I have a self-care night, or if I go for a walk or catch up with friends, it's like you acknowledge that. It's like, oh, I'm so proud of you for... Yeah. I don't know how you say it. You don't really say it like that, but you say it in such a way that it's like, oh, I feel so seen. Or you're like, oh, I love when you look after yourself or you pamper yourself like that.
Yeah.
It's like just shows how much you love yourself, and I appreciate that so much. You don't really say it like that. That sounded like a bit weird. Yeah. But like you say it very...
I can't even remember how I say it, but I say it a good way. And it's like,
I think it's just so genuine when you say it.
It's like, have a day where maybe it's a Sunday, you wake up on a Sunday morning and you have a notepad and you are intentionally looking out for everything your partner does that you maybe forget to thank them for. And then try and write down 20 things throughout that day of things your partner does that's so normal, that's so day by day, that she made you breakfast, that she made the bed, that he went to the shops for you, that he went to work for you. It's like write down all those things.
That she like put herself together and like, or he or she.
The smallest things, yeah. She folded your underwear, she put your socks away.
Yeah, I think you put the clothes away this morning.
That's okay. Yes, things like that. Try and write a list of 20 things in one day and then approach your partner with that.
Did you put my underwear away this morning?
I did. That's so funny. Every time I'm hanging out with Mia's washing, I've got like 10 pairs of underwear. I'm like, ooh, I still feel I turn into like a 14-year-old boy. Like, ooh, I shouldn't be touching these.
I'm just like visualizing you putting them away now, or like folding them up or going.
Not much to fold up. Amazing. Number 5 is different priorities. I feel like this is something that really plays out where maybe the woman really wants to be a mum and feel the nurturing, loving household, whereas the guy just wants to go for it in business and he's got a chip on his shoulder and he wants to feel good enough. So he's out to prove to the world that he is good enough by making money and going out and hustling. But as a byproduct, he totally ignores his wife or his kids. And then his wife feels so unloved, but he feels so unappreciated because he is working so hard. And then it's like the two people have different priorities. But it's like, can you be aware of each other's priorities and see how they are working together? It's
so interesting because we talk about values a lot, right? And linking values. And the thing is, sometimes the values can actually be the same. So for that example that you just gave, it's like the mum, did you say mum and father?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the mum's value is the family. And so that's why she's doing stuff with the family or all the things that she's doing. And the dad or the father's value is also the family, and that's why he's working to create funds to build stability or pay for the family and make sure that the family's okay. But it's so interesting because how they prioritize that and show up for that value to be fulfilled is so different, and from both perspectives, it could look so different. It's like he doesn't feel valued or appreciated for all the hard work that he's doing, and then she could feel unloved or that he doesn't care about the family because he's never present with the family. But his way of showing that, just as an example, and that's why communication is so important and expressing that.
It's like the woman could say, you don't give a shit about me and our kid. But it's like the guy's like, but everything I do is for you and the kid. It's like every single thing I do, the reason I go to work every day, the reason I work so hard, the reason I sacrifice this is for you and the kid. But it's like the woman's like, but you don't give a shit, but you're never here, but you never take the kids do this. You never do the chores around the house. It's like they're both wanting the same thing, but they do it in different ways. It's like his priority is he thinks he needs to do this in order to achieve that, which might be true. She thinks she needs to do this in order to achieve that, which might be true as well. But it's like there can be two truths in a situation. There's never just one truth. It's like they both have their own version of reality and what they're doing.
Yeah, a perceived perception of the value or the truth for that to be the case. It's like, for example, it's like a happy life. I want to live a happy life. If I said that and if Charlie said that, that could look very different, even that we both have very similar values. It's like a happy life.
Words are just words.
Yeah, words are just words. We attach our own meaning to them.
It's like, yeah, Mia but things on social media. And you've actually grown so much. You've grown over 6,000 followers in the last 30, 40 days.
It's been great. You've helped me a lot with that.
That's really cool. And in that, there's one caption, and it's like 5 things I'm doing to become a better girlfriend. And one of them was to be submissive. And the trigger, like women were so triggered about that. And it's like, submissive, that's just a word. And it's everyone's meaning of that word. For Mia and I, it's a great meaning. It means like Mia wants to be led in this relationship and I want to lead in this relationship. And she trusts me in that and I trust her in that. It's like, cool, let's go ahead with that. But then submissive can mean something really bad for someone else. It can mean the trodden on, abused woman in a relationship. And it's like, everyone has such a different meaning.
Yeah, it was so interesting because it's like when I wrote that, because one, it said things that I'm doing to become a better girlfriend. And then everyone took it as if I was telling them that they have to do this, which was just a funny perspective as well, because it's like, one, you're not reading the actual words that I'm saying. And when I wrote submissive, I think I did know it was going to be controversial, and that's why I put it as number one. But for me, it's like, because when I got into this relationship, I was always acting from my masculine
and feeling like you need to protect yourself all the time.
No, it's like my masculine energy. Yes, from that. But it's like I constantly felt like I was always the one in charge of myself. I was like, I would always make sure that I'm in control. I'm always doing this. And then actually learning that, I can actually allow Charlie to plan a date and me just to say yes to it and follow through with any ideas or like how you had the date planned or how he had the first day planned or things like that. And I'm like, I'm allowed to be, it's okay for me to be submissive through those moments. And it's like doing that is going to allow me to just to be a better partner overall, other than controlling. Like Charlie could have planned a whole day and if I was still in my masculine energy, I'd be like, no, or if I wasn't allowing to be.
You wouldn't even allow anyone to pay for you for anything.
Yeah, it's like I would refuse a whole day of like, nope, like I'll do it. Like you've just planned a whole day. Nope, let me disrespect that. And no, I will plan the whole day. Like here, let me do everything for you. And that's not, it's like allowing myself to be more submissive in moments throughout the relationship. Absolutely. And there is so much power within that.
Exactly. And
so that's how I meant it.
It makes me feel great. Like when you trust me to do things, when you trust me to take the lead.
Go to the grocery shop and get
all
all
of the food. It makes me feel so capable.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you didn't allow that, you'd stop me from feeling great in those moments. So it's like, can you trust your partner in that? And that's the great journey of a relationship, is learning to trust your partner in those things. It's giving away, like it's being vulnerable a little bit, hoping your partner takes the lead. Okay, he does take the lead. It's like, cool, build on top of that.
Yeah, and exactly. And there's a lot of comments in there also saying that what that could lead to, blah, 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 like very negative of, you can tell that they have not done enough personal development to make sense of it.
They've had bad experiences in the past.
Yeah, maybe. It's like, if you don't trust the person, don't be submissive. Like, it's not like you'd walk around the world being submissive to everything. Absolutely not. And I think that's the way that they
perceived it. Yeah. So funny. It's like, it's just words until you attach a meaning to it.
Exactly.
And people have different meanings to us, so
yeah,
that's been okay with that. Amazing. So they were the 5 points. Number 1, a deep level of disrespect. It's like, if you want your relationship to last, make sure you respect your partner. Don't treat him like your emotional punching bag. Number 2, be teammates instead of enemies. Like, so many people turn against each other in times of hardship. So it's like, can you be with your partner in that? And then loss of trust. Can you build up the trust? Can you follow through on your actions? Can you actually show up as a man? Or can you trust your partner to, just keep following through? And then number 4, keeping the effort up in your relationship. And then number 5 is realize how your partner has different priorities to you and you're both leading to the same result. Amazing. So that's the 5 things. And what are you excited about this week, Mia Cherry? Do you have anything planned up?
This week I'm excited about, I don't know I feel like we have some baby appointment this week. I'm not sure which one, but it's coming to mind that we have a baby appointment. So that's exciting.
We have some social stuff, don't we? We have like baby birthdays and stuff.
We do. We have a baby birthday.
Is that next weekend?
I have podcasts that I'm going on this week. Like I'm being a guest podcast on a couple different other podcasts. So that's really exciting. But yeah, it's like baby stuff, podcast stuff. Growth on Instagram's going really well. So
yeah, that's so Charlie. Cool. Hey,
Charlie does
social media consulting.
Social media consulting, and since he was doing it for other people, I'm like, if you want to help everyone else get famous on Instagram or like grow their following on Instagram,
why not help me?
Yeah, like take me as a client. And so yeah, I've been working with you for the last 2 months now with that.
Yeah,
and that's been so good.
Been at like 9,000 followers for a long time, and then you're up to like 16 almost now, aren't you?
Yeah, we'll hit 16,000 today.
Oh, check her out. She'll be so famous. I'm excited about that. It's so cool seeing those numbers. It's such a dopamine hit of seeing that.
I think it's really exciting to have like a project together that's like, it's a me, like it's a my project, but you helping me with it to achieve that goal is really cool. That's outside of our relationship. It's just purely like my work stuff.
Amazing.
Which is great.
How exciting. Amazing. Thank you.
What are you excited about?
What am I excited about? I haven't got anything specific this week, really. I just want to get back into routine. Like, I'm feeling good with health. I'm excited to go to the gym more. Excited to get this podcast out again. And yeah, just that sort of stuff, you know. I got nothing specific, just excited about life, being healthy again.
Yeah, I love that.
I've always been healthy, but being more healthy.
Yeah, and the sun is out now. Yet last week it rained. Yeah, last week it rained all week. And then now the sun's back out and it feels like we've hit summer again, and it just feels great. Like, I genuinely, the last 2 days, I felt so happy, and I know it's just because simply the sun's out. And
winter in Gold Coast isn't that bad, but it's still, summer's so much nicer. Like, we were out at 6:37 last night and the wind was blowing and it was warm. I was like, holy shit, this feels so different.
Yeah, it just, love summer. Summer just makes me happy, which is great.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much. Join us every single Monday. We release a brand new episode, and we can't wait to see you next week.